Hello everyone. Although I know I have introduced to you the bill of material in one of my SolidWorks drawing videos a little bit, but I want to show you a little bit more about it and give you some extra options and some extra things you can do on the BOM, both for professional goals, and if you ever take like a SolidWorks certification test or something, you might see questions like that. So here is a basically conveyor system with some motors and sensors and so on, and it's a very large assembly with several hundred components. So if I want to create a bill of material for this, I can go to here, right? Or I can go to insert and go to tables, or I can directly go here to tables and then say what? Bill of material, BOM. It says give me a view, so here I give it this isometric view, and then it asks me something. It says, hey, do you want me to show you all of the parts? Do you want me to do indented or top levels only? And I'll show you what's the difference between them. Then it asks me if there are configurations. It asks me which configurations. In this case, I don't have any, so it's the default one. And then it says, hey, do you want me to start the item numbers from 1 and increment 1 at a time and so on? Yes, right. And you have some options here. So first, let me just go with parts only, which is like a default for it, and create a BOM for this, which is a large one, of course, and place it right here. So now look, this is the BOM, which, as I said, is very large because this is a large assembly, and it goes down quite a bit, right? So you see here that it has a bunch of basically item 61. So the BOM, when it gives you the default, is these 4 columns: item number, part number or name, basically, a description if it's available from the properties of the file, and then the quantity of them, how many of each you can see. This is using the parts, okay? So it says parts only. This is what parts only means. Now here, if you look, this assembly is made of several sub-assemblies. So there is a sub-assembly here, a sub-assembly here, a sub-assembly here. There are several sub-assemblies, and each sub-assembly with its part is shown here. So you cannot really see, right, these parts belong to which sub-assembly, because each and every one of the parts is shown here. But if you want, you can change the way this BOM is shown by clicking here. So you activate the window and say, hey, just show me the top levels. Now look what happens. When you do that, now only the top level, the name of the sub-assembly is shown. So you see I have the piston sub-assembly 1. I have 4 conveyor parts that you can see here, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I have a tilt frame, I have a tilt roller, I have an overturning mechanism, I have a press, which is 1, and I have this support here. Okay, so this way it only shows the names of the sub-assemblies and how many sub-assemblies you have, not the individual parts. And if you say indented, now look what happens. This way it shows the parts under the name of the sub-assembly, right? So it shows, hey, this is the piston sub-assembly, and it has 1 pivot cylinder, 1 pivot cylinder rod, and then the rod clevis, and it shows how many. So this is how you can you can arrange the bill of material, which is very useful how you want to see that. So here I put it in the top item, so I have only a few of these, and I want to show you some extra stuff you can do. So let's say I don't want this description, and it's empty because there is nothing in the file properties of those individual ones provided as description. I can add that and link it to it, but I'll show you that later. So here I right click here and I say delete. that whole column, and then I right click again on that column and say insert the column on the right. And it says, what is it that you want? So I can choose item number, part number, custom property, and so on, equations. So I say custom property, and then I say cost. And you see it adds what? Some cost for me for those sub-assemblies. Okay? So this is the cost of each individual component. But now, if I want to see what is the total cost of assembly, I have to multiply the cost column by the quantity column and get like the sub-assembly cost, and then I have to add all those numbers together. So can I do that here? Yes. I can also, by the way, I can right click on this bill of material and then save it as what? Save it as an Excel file, and then I can go to Excel file and do whatever I want, right? Insert equations and so on. But can I do it in SolidWorks without exporting it to Excel? The answer is yes. So how do I do that? As I said, I need an extra column now to multiply these two together. So how do I do that? Look, I right click here and I say insert again, a column to the right, but this time I say I want an equation column. I want what? I want an equation column. And now the question is, what kind of equation? So I click on that equation symbol, and here it allows me to type the equation for it. So I say I want the column, which is cost, multiplied by the column, which is what? Quantity. Multiply them together, and then what? Give me the total cost. So you see 1 times 76, 4 times 550, and so on and so forth. And I can double click here and provide some name on this top cell, right? So I can double click over there and say sub assembly cost, something like that. Good. So now I got that. The last thing I need is to add these numbers together. And for that, I can go ahead and basically go to this last row, right click and say insert a row below. And now my goal is what? My goal is to basically change that number here to some of those. So you see, I clicked on this cell, a left click, and then I go to equation. And it says, what is it that you want to do? And I say, I want what? I want the functions. And for function, I say, I want what? I want the sum, or I want total. Okay, so I can say, I want total. And here, if I say, okay, look, I get what? I get the total of all of those numbers. So here I can call this guy a total cost or something. Right? So here you clearly see that I have added all of those properties to my bill of material. Now, as I said, some properties, when you create a column for them, they might be empty. Why? Because those properties for those items, those files have not been specified. So there is nothing to show. Let's say, for example, I add a new column here and say insert a column on the right and say, I want you to show me who made this file, right? Give me the author of it. So if I say author and I okay that, look, there is nobody, right? Because the property called author for these files have not been added when these files were made. So what do I do here? I need to add those properties to those files, to those assemblies, sub-assemblies, so they can populate here. So let's try it on one of these. Let's say here, I go ahead and under these drawing views, if I expand it, I can see all of the sub-assemblies, right? Let's say, for example, this tilt frame here, which, by the way, when you click on it, it is going to highlight it for you in what? You see, in the BOM. So that's another thing. When you want to find stuff, information about something, you can just click on it here or in that view, and it is going to highlight the row or the column for it, the row for it, and you can see the information about it. But as I said, let's add some author for this tilt frame so it can populate here. So this is the tilt frame. I right click and say open the assembly, and it does open the assembly for me. And you see here, this sub-assembly really does not have an author. How do I know? So here I click on this guy, says file property, and if I click here, you see the place for author is what? Empty. And the place for comment is empty, the place for title is empty. Then I can go and add some extra what? Custom properties here. So you see the cost is already added because I used it in my, and it was there. But I can go here and I should be able to type new properties and come up with what? With some kind of, so for example, if it's a text or something, right, I should be able to like say description or something else. So I can type new properties, some values, and then I can use them later in my what? In the bill of materials. So let's say this guy is coming from 3D Experience. It's not my file, this assembly. So it's coming from 3D Experience. So I OK that and I save it. So now if I go back here, it should populate over there. You see, there we go. And I can add other authors and what? Get them to populate over here. So this is adding extra columns. And as long as they are available in the file properties of those assemblies or components, I should be able to see them here and I should be able to add them. One thing else that they might sometimes ask you is to sort BOM based on the values in a specific column. So for example, they might say sort it based on the quantity, right? Then what you need to do is to grab that column and right click on it and then say what? Sort, and you can sort it ascending or descending. So let's just do it based on quantity and ascending, or you can choose anything else and then OK that. And now you see it is sorted based on the quantity here. Okay, so that is what? That is sorting, which is another option in BOM. Okay, so hopefully this video was useful to you and you learned some useful information about the bill of material in SolidWorks drawing. So I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.